Hello and welcome to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast where whatever new year we're entering in the real world, it'll always be sometime between January the 1st, 1990 and December the 31st, 1999 over here. I'm Alex Greenwood and joining me as per is Stu Joslin. Stu, the pod is entering its second calendar year. How do you feel?
Hey Greenie, yeah, fantastic about that. It's great to be back again for the start of another year. Should we start the pod with some perfunctory, excruciating office small talk about our Christmases?
Yeah, why not? It's, how was your Christmas?
Oh, lovely, thanks you.
Yeah, it was great, thanks.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Moving on. No. I just a couple of things to mention. I did have a lovely time. First of all, thank you for asking. I hope you did too. Secondly, I did get a couple of great 90s themed gifts, which has probably arisen as a result of me hosting this pod with you. I got hold of the Seinfeld Lego set, which some of our listeners might have seen on my Instagram. And I've also been getting stuck into Josh Widdicombe's fantastic book, Watching Neighbours Twice a Day, which is about all the fantastic TV we used to love in the 90s. And there's already been, I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book, there's already been substantial passages on Ghost Watch, 999, and even a little bit of Strange But True.
Wow.
So there you go. It's packed full of the sort of things that we speak about on the podcast when it comes to TV. So I can't recommend that highly enough. And Josh, please do feel free to contact us about coming on because we'd love to have you.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Come on the show. You're definitely a man after our own hearts.
For sure.
With
For
the
sure.
stuff that he's into there. Before we go any further, the sponsor today is Mbongo Tropical Juice Drinks. Now, if you happen to find yourself way down deep in the middle of the Congo, you can use the code ALLRIGHT90s to get 25% off a 3-pack of 200ml cartons of refreshing Mbongo. So that's the code ALLRIGHT90s for 25% off this episode's sponsor, Mbongo Blended Fruit Drink.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, guys.
I can't find it anywhere. Well,
I was going to say, can you still get it?
I have put out pleas on my Facebook before to try and see if anyone has ever spots it anywhere. So I think it's much like Sunkist. It's something that if anyone ever sees, any of our listeners ever see, then please do get in touch and tell me where, and I'll go and buy some because.
Well, we haven't got anywhere with the Sunkist or the Cadbury's Astros yet, have we? So we haven't really got a great track record in this area. Maybe we can break our duck with the Mbongo. Who knows?
It's almost like no one's listening, isn't it?
Almost.
Right. So. Do you? I have one thing to mention quickly. That was the last episode, the Christmas special with brother of the pod, Adam. As usual, I forgot to do something in the recording, and that was to ask Adam what his one thing he'd bring back from the 90s was. It's something we aim to ask all our guests, but generally only ask one or two because I always forget. But Adam did tell me that he would bring back Amiga magazines with cover discs. So,
brilliant.
Anyone out there from the world of gaming in the early mid 90s will remember them. And yeah, I'd love to see them back again. A good demo disc. I don't know if you don't really get demo discs anymore. I guess it's all.
Don't think so. No, but I used to get hold of the demo discs on the magazines and play them over and over again. I was an expert in the first level of the Toy Story 2 PlayStation game. Yeah, no, remember them well, and yeah, big avid reader of those sorts of magazines. In the 90s, so absolutely, love to see them back.
Yeah, of course, the king of the demo disc would be Demo 1, which came with the PlayStation 1. I mean, I played that more than most games I had on the PlayStation.
I think so. Now, hang on a second. Porsche Challenge.
Yeah.
Abe's Odyssey.
Yes, please.
Ridge Racer Revolution, maybe.
Well, maybe.
Or am I misremembering that because we had that game anyway?
Yeah,
so maybe I'm misremembering that. But
I think it was on there. Well, it was definitely something I played but didn't own, so that would probably be why.
Hang on, you're going to have to indulge us here at readers while we just readers. I've got viewers and readers. They're listeners. Okay, PS1 demo 1. Here we go.
I know that Die Hard was on there because the first level of Die Hard 2 from the Die Hard trilogy was played a lot thanks to that demo. There's
a YouTube video of the whole thing if you want to see it. Here are a list of the games, trailers, and other, it says here. It was on the famous Demo 1 disc. Hercules, Karushi, Life Force Tenka, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, Overboard, Porsche Challenge, Rage Racer. That must be where
yeah, yeah.
Well, there's Rage Racer and Rapid Racer here. So obviously, 2 games there that aren't Ridge Racer. Trailers for Roscoe McQueen and Soul Blade. And then there's also, under other, there's things here called Dino Manta and VCD, none of which I have any idea what they actually were.
Oh, so there wasn't Die Hard on there. I swear I played Die Hard. Maybe it was a different demo disc. Maybe it's just a PlayStation Magazine demo disc.
Possibly.
Yeah, and then was it the PlayStation 2 where it had the demo 2 or whatever it was called, had an animation of a T-Rex running, and you could sort of zoom the camera around it.
Maybe this is what Dino is here.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, there we are. Now we know. We do the work, listeners, so you don't have to.
Yeah, that's. I think demo 1 is the official demo disc of the pod, isn't it? I think we can safely say that.
We'll put that in the ledger. Absolutely. Yeah. Many thanks to all of you who listened and got in touch with great feedback about our Christmas episode with Adam. I had a lot of fun recording that one, even though I was a bit ill at the time. I've had my bronchial balsam, by the way, Alex, and I'm ready to go for tonight, seeing as it was so successful last time.
Yeah, I've noticed that you're still drinking it, even though you're not ill anymore, which is never a good sign.
Listen, it's all right. I can give up any time I want. What I would like to say, the post bag has been a little light over Christmas. Now I know that the post has been a little bit delayed. I'm still here waiting for my PS1 game, The Italian Job, which I bought myself over Christmas as a little gift. So I know that the post has been a bit delayed. But we would obviously like to hear what you've got to say about the episodes and then what you think about our various comments. So don't leave us hanging and don't make us come to you on bended knee like this. Please do get in touch with your with your thoughts and everything, and it will get read out. I guarantee that. So yes, please do for the next episode when we've read out our second part of our Cult 90s 11s, as you're going to hear in a second. Please do get in touch and let us know what you think for sure.
Make this be the last time we have to beg, please.
Yes, absolutely. We do still have on the menu though, What's the Most 90s, which is our running feature. What have we done so far? We've done football clubs, we've done fashion accessories, we've done snack food.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think this is the fourth one, and fourth one in the series. It's my turn to pose the question to Alex this week. And what I would like to know, Alex, is what do you think is the most 90s gadget?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. The thing I've chosen did come straight to mind, and then I didn't think much beyond that because I was so sure. But when you asked it, then I did think actually maybe the Casio watch with was it Casio, the watch that had the calculator on it?
Yes, I believe so.
That was the sort of bane of maths teachers all around the country when they came out. Because I definitely remember them. I think it was primary school when they came out and everyone was wearing them, and it was like, oh, I don't have to do my times tables anymore. But I haven't chosen that. I've chosen something. I mean, I hope this is technically a gadget rather than electronic equipment. I know they're kind of similar, but I felt like I couldn't look any further than the Sony Discman or the Sony CD Walkman, depending on I think when it was around. It was launched in the 80s and 84, but I think it came of age in the 90s. That's when CDs were like, really overtook cassettes. So yeah, I never had one. I think my brother had one, but I just had a cassette, a normal Walkman. But it just feels like it has to be a Discman. What were your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought I did go more on the cassette side of things because I was still on the personal cassette players, certainly in the mid 90s. And then in the late 90s, towards the end of the decade, I remember it was a gold Bush portable CD player, which I had for about 3 months before my dad dropped it on the driveway, and and it never quite worked in the same way again. But he did get me a replacement, to be fair to him. But what I alighted on for this one is the pager.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Now this is something that I think must have began in the 90s and sort of ended in the 90s as well, in terms of it being used as a personal sort of communication device. I know I've got a very good friend of mine, Tom, is in the fire service, and they obviously still use pagers for call outs and things like that, but not in the same way where you would have messages scrolling along it and things like that. So yeah, I never knew anybody who had a pager. I don't think I ever actually saw a pager in the flesh. So it seemed like a very sort of futuristic thing at the time. But yeah, if I was to choose a gadget that I think is firmly rooted in the 1990s, I'd have to go for the pager.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Actually, I didn't think of that. So it's something that really dates TV programs, detective and police programs, doesn't it? When someone whips out a page from their pocket.
What was
yeah.
the how would you would it be like on a contract the same as a mobile phone is now? So is that how the messages got sent between? There must have been some sort of service that you signed up to, right? It can't have been free.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a good question. I don't know how they work. Like, what was the? I don't know. We need someone who was from the 90s to come on. We're from the 90s, but someone who was like 10 years older than us, who was like a business person or I don't know, an emergency service worker. See how that works.
Yeah, well, that's a good correspondence subject. If you had a pager in the 90s, please get in touch and let us know how it worked and how long you used it for and what indeed you used it for. Because this whole thing is a mystery wrapped in an enigma to us. So, yeah.
As Stu just mentioned there, this episode is the second part of our Cult 11s. We did the first part sort of just before Christmas, and obviously had to have a break for the festive period. But we covered the defenders and the goalkeepers in the first episode, and it quickly became clear that we'd gone in very different directions. I'd gone global and good, and Stu had gone UK and not so good. Yeah.
I'll take obscure. I don't know about not so good. You know, they all played at the highest level in England. Like, it's not to be sniffed at, is it?
That's true. Yeah, I don't want to.
Before you go, I know the mind games have already started, but I don't want you belittling my side before we even get out there. You know,
I have tried to sort of, I tried a little bit to try and balance out a bit. I didn't want to, go too superstar again, but
okay, well that's good because up front for me, I've got Ronaldo and Rivaldo, and then
those classic cult heroes. So you may have heard of them. One of my choices actually isn't a million miles away from that, so that goes against what.
Great, fantastic. All
right. But do you? I think you should lead off. It's only fair.
I can lead off.
Who's coming out of the tunnel next?
Okay. Well, I was given the players in number order before, wasn't I? In the way I've got them out on the pitch on my team sheet. So I'm going to go back to number 4 because I didn't use number 4 in the first episode because of course the centre backs wear 5 and 6.
Yeah.
As is only correct. So my number 4 and my first central midfielder is Sasa Čurčić.
The name rings a bell, but remind me.
Well, he is special to me as he is the only player in my 11 which I have actually met.
Oh.
So I spent a brief time with Sasa Čurčić in the car park at Villa Park, following Villa 1 Leeds 0 on Saturday the 30th of August 1997. I was in the car park and managed to meet a lot of the players that day for autographs. So he signed for Villa from Bolton in 1995, and he also went on to play for Crystal Palace after that in the Premier League. I don't know if Villa signed him. He had a very good season. He played for Bolton for 1 season before he signed for Aston Villa, and he had a very, very good season. Had a very good season with Bolton. It was their first season in the Premier League, and he was their record signing for that season. Had a very good season there, and then came over to join Villa for 2 seasons. Obviously, Savo Milosevic was already there, and with them being both Serbian, I don't know. Maybe if it was maybe it was something just to help Savo settle down and get a fellow countryman in the side with him, just to help him along. Unfortunately, by the time of this Leeds game where I met him, he had a very impressive wash bag, I seem to remember as well. He had his wash bag under his arm, and it was like red satin, and it added like a yellow tassel on it.
Lovely.
I remember this clearly. There are photos of all of this somewhere in my parents' house. I'll have to dig them out sometime. His relationship had somewhat soured by then, and he wasn't playing too much. He played in the UEFA Cup for Villa quite a bit that season, but not in the league. But really, I've got him in the team because he's another interesting individual who went on after his sort of late career is quite interesting. I'm just going to read you some of the later parts of his Wikipedia. So this is from his spell at Crystal Palace. During spring 1999, he famously paraded around the Selhurst Park pitch with a placard stating, "Yugoslavia, stop NATO bombing," to protest the ongoing NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. So there was that. In his later career, he sported a shaved head and Fu Manchu beard without a moustache. He declared his intention to become the Dennis Rodman of the MLS when he joined Metro Stars from Crystal Palace. And then at the age of 29, when he retired, he stated, "I would not sign for another club, not even if I was offered $15 million. However, it would be different if they were to instead offer me 15 different women from all around the world. I would tell the club chairman, please let me make these women happy. I will satisfy them like they have never been satisfied before." Wow. He also went on to be in the Serbian version of Celebrity Big Brother. He actually won it in 2007. And apparently, he was going to, or he's approached to participate in the British version of Celebrity Big Brother in 2010, but nothing ever came of that. So yeah, a very interesting character all round. Remembered well by Villa fans. Not the greatest player we ever had, but certainly one of the 90s icons of the side, I would say. And I've got no hesitation in throwing him into my central midfield. So yeah, my number 4 is Sasi Čirčić.
Oh, very nice. I think there's more going on with him there than the whole of my team put together in terms of sort of quirks. But yeah, a good choice. I can't work out what a Fu Manchu without the moustache looks like, or without the beard. Which bit did you say?
It said, well, yeah, Fu Manchu sans moustache. It said, but
I can't. What is that? What is that?
A Fu Manchu is a moustache, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to work that out.
What are the dangly bits hanging off?
Yeah.
If there's no moustache.
I don't know. Maybe hang on. Let me Google image him and see what we can find. Oh yeah, no, I think I've got something here. So it's SASA, and then CURCIC. But there's a photo here which appears to come from MySpace, bizarrely. He's got a bald head, big gold earring in the left ear, and then he does have a sort of blonde landing strip type beard and it cuts off the bottom of the picture, cuts it off, but there is some beads in it. It does appear. So I would imagine that's what they're referring to. Have you got that?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A good choice. Good choice. I barely remember him, but that doesn't mean
like most of my team. I mean,
yeah, that's sort of one of the requisites for this feature, this team. Okay, my first choice. I don't think he is really a number 4, but I feel like I'm going to go the only player who could really be considered a central midfielder in my squad. I think my formation has sort of switched a bit to 2 wingers, a central midfielder, and 3 strikers. Or I could force one of them to be an attacking midfielder just to make it 4-4-2. But the only player who has any semblance of defensive mindedness about him is John Moncur, who I have chosen primarily for his place in the Swindon Town squad, who graced the Premier League in 1993-94 for their one and only season in the big leagues. And there are a few players in that squad that I kind of remember: Paul Bodin, Fraser Digby in goal, and Jan Arge Fjørtoft, who was their sort of superstar striker. But Moncur, I guess, because he went on to join West Ham and was there for ages, so he was quite big in the Premier League. But I seem to remember quite liking him. I kind of had a slight affinity to Swindon Town because they were the most local team we had at that point, I guess, between them and the Bristol sides. But Swindon Town had the benefit of being from Wiltshire, so that was nice. And they had a great kit as well. If I remember correctly, all red. They didn't have white shorts, did they? I think they were.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was an all red kit. Yeah,
slightly unusual at the time. Great sponsor with the Burma. And this was back when they had the 90s badge. It's changed now, but they had that sort of great.
This is like a diamond. Yeah, I think with
green and red halves. Yeah. Which you can spot occasionally in This Country, the great comedy sitcom that was on a couple of years back. But yeah, he famously or infamously was stamped on by Eric Cantona during their bad-tempered 2-2 draw, which I think was the high point of Swindon's season in the Premier League. The draw was, not the stamping. That was not the high point. But yeah, he then signed for West Ham and became one of their sort of key players. I think was a bit of a fan favourite. And I found this quite amusing story on Wikipedia about him. Yeah, so during West Ham's 5-4 victory over Bradford City in 2000 at Upton Park, Moncur scored with a rising drive from outside the penalty area, falling over as he did so. He then ran over to the West Ham fans, took his shirt off to celebrate. And then when the celebrations died down, Moncur was unable to put his shirt back on and was seen running up the pitch with his shirt still only partially on, and was therefore out of position as Bradford hit another goal immediately from the restart. this goal was his last for West Ham. I thought that was just a nice little anecdote from John Moncur's career. So, yeah, a bit of a sort of, yeah, I didn't. He's not someone who's very close to my heart, but I did think I need someone from the Swindon Town squad. Who am I going to pick? He came to mind first, and I needed a central midfielder. So John is in the squad for that reason.
Brilliant. I think didn't the same thing happen to Diego Forlan? I think I seem to remember watching this on the TV where he'd taken the shot off after scoring, but Man United at the time had one of those like double layered shirts.
All right.
So it's sort of like he couldn't get it back on, and the game was going on, and he was trying to put his shirt on. Yeah.
That does sound familiar.
Yeah.
Sort of thing he'd do.
Swindon also that season, still the only Premier League team to concede 100 goals in a season.
Yes. And I did read that and think, God, that might change this season with Norwich. We'll. It's another record to try and avoid. That's the sort of thing we're aiming for now.
Cantona tackled though by Monca. Didn't like it. Got it back. Oh, now the referee was very, very close to that. Monca lies on the ground. Cantona under the microscope again.
Okay, who is your next choice?
Okay, so I'm up to my number 7 now. So I'm on to my right midfielder, and I've gone for Karol Poborski at number 7.
Lovely.
So he certainly came into my knowledge at Euro '96 when he made the team of the tournament. Obviously playing in the final against Germany, and he scored possibly one of the goals of the tournament as well with a chip against
the lovely
Portugal.
Lob.
Yeah, absolutely, which became a bit of a trademark of his.
Did he keep trying after that?
I think so. I'm not sure if it ever happened again, but certainly kept trying. Unfortunately, of course, if you're a right-sided midfielder joining Man United in 1996, you're going to be competing with David Beckham for a place.
Yeah.
Which might be why, in his 2 seasons, he's only managed about 30 games for the club. But why I wanted to select Karol Poborski and talk about him is because, again, it was my first exposure to the phenomenon of players who nobody really knew about. And this would have been more of a thing, obviously, without the TV coverage there is now, or the online coverage. Nobody in the UK would have probably heard of Karol Poborski because he was playing in the Czech Republic. So these players who you haven't heard of before suddenly coming to prominence in these tournaments, big national tournaments, and then getting signed by a British side. Didn't seem to happen in this year's Euros, I don't think. I can't remember any. Again, with the Czech team, it was they had a striker called Patrick Schick, didn't they? Who scored that goal from the halfway line against Scotland.
Oh yeah.
And I think there was some speculation about him maybe joining a Premier League club, but that never happened.
Yeah, you're definitely right. That sort of thing did used to happen. There'd be a tournament, and then suddenly all these players would be picked up by the big names. And
exactly. Well, it happened to Villa in the 2000s when Milan Baros became the again for the Czech Republic was the Golden Boot winner at Euro 2004.
Sorry, I was just going to say he was the first player that came into my head when I was thinking of names that came from. I thought he went to Liverpool first. I didn't realise he went.
Well, yes, I think Liverpool. I think Villa signed him from Liverpool. I think he hadn't been doing very well at Liverpool. He suddenly scored 5 goals at Euro 2004, and then Villa picked him up. And he didn't really do anything at Villa either. So, as far as I can recall, unfortunately. So there we are. But yeah, Karol Poborski. A little bit unfortunate, I think, as I say, coming into the same team as David Beckham. He then went on to play for Benfica and Lazio. Went back to Sparta Prague. He played for both Slavia and Sparta Prague, different teams, obviously, and had a good career. I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not a Man United fan, so I don't know if he's fondly remembered by the Man United supporters or what. But yeah, and a lovely long blonde curly mane as well, which is worth a place in the side alone with those flowing locks flying down the wings. So yeah, I'll put Karol Poborski in at number 7.
What number is a left winger? I know right wing 7. What's numbers a left?
Well, I always go for left wing at 11. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go for my left wing. I'm not going to do mine in order, just because I've got a couple of players from the same team, and I want to say this one first, if you'll allow me.
Of course.
obviously that team is Norwich City. There were no Norwich City players in my defence or in goal, I don't think. So I had to get at least one into my attacking lineup, and I have of course gone for local hero Darren Eadie on the left wing. On the left wing, he's a Norwich City Hall of Famer. Was one of the inductees of the when it first opened, the Hall of Fame for Norwich, and he is, as I mentioned, from our hometown Corsham, and he went to our school. Would have been, I suppose, 5 or 6 years before us. He did visit the school once, but it was before I was there. It was I was still at primary school at this point, although my brother did get his autograph and bring it home for me, which was it must be somewhere in my parents' house. But he was a legend at Norwich. He sort of started just in that season where we did really well in the Premier League, and then ended up in Europe. I think he made his debut actually when we were in Europe, I think against Vitesse Arnhem in one of the first rounds of the UEFA Cup. But then he went on to play for us until 1999, before we sold him to Leicester, or he moved to Leicester City. And yeah, he unfortunately did retire quite early because of injury. Just one of those players it's usually wingers, I find, that have injury blighted careers. So he retired at only 28. He can still be seen doing media duties for Norwich, and he also played he was capped 7 times for the England under-21s, but he never quite made a full cap, although he was part of the England squad for possibly the most 90s international tournament. What would you say was the most 90s football tournament?
I've
thrown that on you there a bit.
But... Yeah. Well, he wouldn't have been in the squad for Litornoy, would he?
Yes, he was. That is,
was he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was you were correct with that. That was your first thought for the most 90s tournament, the 1997 Tournoi de France. He was in the squad, but unfortunately was an unused sub, so he never got a full cap. But he was there. You can't take that away from him.
Well.
And he's now the co-manager of Southern League Central Leiston FC, based in Suffolk. So he's still in the East Anglian area. He didn't come back to Corsham, but that's fair enough, I think. So yeah, local boy legend and Norwich legend Darren Eadie is on my racing down my left wing.
Great, yeah, he's certain. I don't know if he's still there. I hope it is. But up until I left Corsham School as a member of staff, one of his England under-21 shirts was hanging up in reception in a frame.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he must have donated it, I think, to school. To display. Yeah, that's up there. And I remember there being like a team picture with him in it as a young lad in one of the PE changing rooms. So yeah, even in my time at school, when he would have, I suppose, been coming to the end of his top level career, he was still a very big presence in the in and around the place. So yeah, no, I'm really glad you picked him, both for the local connection and for the Norwich connection as well. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, where are you going next? Are you going to another central?
I am. I'm going to go to my number 8 now, and this is my playmaker, my creative midfielder. Do you remember in the first part of this magnum opus, when I came to my left back slot, and we found out subsequently that he's actually a right midfielder, but when it came to my left back slot, I bet you my mortgage that you wouldn't know who the player was. Yeah, and you wouldn't know his name.
And I didn't lie, so I didn't.
And you didn't lie. Okay, so I'm going to give you another chance.
Okay.
I am going to bet you my mortgage that you don't know the player that I'm going to put in my number 8, shirt.
Okay, I'll accept that. I'll take that.
Okay, so the player is a chap called Billy Kenny.
No, I don't know him.
No? Okay. All right, my house is safe. So Billy Kenny is widely regarded amongst 90s football aficionados as very much the player that got away. So he was a central midfielder, attacking central midfielder, Paul Gascoigne style talent, if you see what I mean. He played 17 games for Everton between 1992 and 1994, and made his debut at the age of 19. And he was man of the match in the first ever Premier League Merseyside derby. So this is a player who had great potential. Unfortunately, though, in again a parallel to Paul Gascoigne, his career was sort of blighted at first by injury and then later with addiction issues. which led to him being sacked from Everton by their then manager Mike Walker, another Norwich legend.
Yeah.
He then joined Oldham after that, and then he had a couple of games for Oldham, and I didn't realise, but I've been watching a clip of Billy Kenny for years and years without recognising it, because when I did some research into him, in one of his games for Oldham, he scored an own goal against Port Vale, and that own goal is on Own Goals and Gas 2.
Okay.
With Danny Baker, because it's mentioned that it's an Oldham versus Port Vale game, but obviously the player involved isn't mentioned, so it's obviously became clear that it was Billy Kenny himself. He sort of dropped out of the game. He had a couple of games for Barrow in non-league, but really dropped out of the game. One cap for England under 21s in 1992, and I felt like I had to put him in because he was, as I say, he's one of the 90s great wastes of talent. And if he'd been able to develop his career, then he undoubtedly would have been one of the great England players of the 90s and 2000s. So I felt it apt to give him another chance to do that in my team. So in the playmaking role, in the number 8 role, it's Billy Kenny.
Oh, that's nice. Nice that you're giving him a second chance. If he sounds like somebody who deserves a second bite at the big leagues.
I think so. I mean, he was obviously only a very, very young man. And I mean, listen, I can't speak for him. I don't know the circumstances behind it, but maybe I was watching the episode of the Mortimer and Whitehouse fishing program over Christmas, and Paul Gascoigne was a guest on that.
Yeah.
And it was sort of referenced in that when he became as famous as he did, as young an age as he did, that was part of the reason that things became so hard to handle. And I don't know if it was the same for Billy Kenny, if he was being touted as, one of the great hopes of the future of English football. Maybe that was too much pressure to put on such young shoulders.
Freshly relegated Oldham have learned from their mistakes. They've learned them, and they can repeat them upon request. Just 12 months previously, they were causing all sorts of problems for the best in the land, and they came close to killing off Man United. This match is at Port Vale. That's why they call it the Drop.
Okay, I'm going to actually go straight across the park from my left wing position to my right wing position. Mm-hmm. And I have another Norwich legend, although maybe not linked so heavily with just us. It's Rule Fox, who I believe is also in the Norwich Hall of Fame. He played in the Premier League for Norwich, Newcastle and Spurs. I think, in my opinion, are 3 quite likeable teams. I'm sure there's Sunderland and Arsenal fans out there who will disagree with that, but I think all those clubs I find them all quite likeable. He started at Norwich, I assume from youth, but made his debut in the 1986-7 season. He actually made his debut in a full Members' Cup match against Coventry City. Have you ever heard of the full Members' Cup?
I have, yeah.
I hadn't.
Yeah, is this one of these things that later got rebranded as like was it the Simod Cup or the ZDS Cup or something like that?
Exactly, yeah. Your knowledge is good. Yeah, the Simod Cup from 87 to 89, and then the Zenith Data Systems Cup from 89 to 92. So yeah, the full Members' Cup ran from 1985 to 1992, and it was created after the Hazel Stadium disaster when English clubs were banned from European competition.
Yeah.
And so it was just another cup for clubs to play in to keep everyone interested. The sort of thing that people like Jurgen Klopp would hate now because they're always complaining about how much football they have to play. But yeah, so he played. That was where he made his debut. Then he played for us through our sort of glory years in the very early 90s, before moving on to Newcastle. Became a member of their one of their teams called the Entertainers, which is not something I'd heard before.
That's like the Kevin Keegan.
Yeah,
12 point lead. I would love it if we beat them era Newcastle team, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so known for their attacking style, and I think Ginola was there for some of it. I think it was 2 or 3 seasons. But then he moved on to Rule Fox moved on to Spurs in their Hewlett Packard days, and then he finished his career with 1 season at West Brom. And then in terms of international, he never made a full cap for England, although he did have 2 England B team caps. And I was wondering, There's not an England B team anymore, is there? That was just something that had up until the late 90s, I think.
There is, yeah, and there's more England B action coming up, which you'll be pleased to hear. I think there was an England B game in about 2011 or 12, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think there was, and the famous thing I remember with the England B team was, I think it was Chris Sutton. He got picked for them in the run up to France '98, and he refused to play for them, and that effectively ended his international career. Because he refused to play for the B team. So, yeah,
that's a real shame. Yeah, because he was, he should have been an English striker with how good he was at Blackburn. Another Norwich legend, Chris Sutton. So, but yeah, I digress. And then after retiring as a player, he had a 2-year gap and then became the manager of the Montserrat national team. Who, as far as I can tell on Wikipedia, he was only there for less than a year, but in this time, he did bring himself out of retirement to give himself 2 caps, which I like. So I guess having played for England B meant that he was still eligible to play for another national team. But
I guess it's a different level of competition. Yeah, I suppose technically.
Yeah, I don't know if Montserrat are one of those sort of international teams that's not quite fully recognised. Like there's certain teams, aren't they? They have their own World Cup. I can't remember any examples of it now, other than I don't.
I know what you mean. There's teams like Bhutan and things like that. People like that are in it. Yeah, and the Cook Islands, I think. And I don't know if Montserrat in there, but he gave himself 2 caps. I thought that was I could just picture him standing on the touchline, arms crossed, just sick of the low level of quality, and just thinking to himself, I can do better than this, and actually going on, bringing himself on. I'm not sure if that's actually how it played out, but that's what I imagine. And I've just chosen him because he's one of my favourite Norwich players. He also played for Tottenham, who I quite liked at the time, and it just seems very 90s. And he also played right wing, which is where I sort of fancied myself as playing, sort of when I even considered the idea of playing football. So you're going to stand on the touchline, sick of the low quality of your team, and then bring yourself on for him. Right, got it.
Exactly. So Rule Fox, my right wing, my 11, number 11.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I've got nothing much to add on Rule. You've given us an exemplary rundown of his career.
Right, who's your next choice?
Okay, I'm on to my strikers now. And in the number 9 shirt, big number 9 shirt, we've had a few Norwich legends in the last couple of choices. So I'm going to balance it out, and I'm going to choose an Ipswich legend. I've gone in this slot for Ian Marshall, who I believe in the early 90s was the hairiest footballer in Britain. He had a fine, what can only be described as a mullet, really. But the hair on the top was also quite long as well. So it was big Billy Ray Cyrus vibes, and coming from Ian Marshall. Again, talking about Frank Gallup, who was on the goals video, which I mentioned in the previous episode. Ian Marshall is also on the goals video, scoring a goal against Norwich, actually, in a pulsating 4-3 clash at Carrow Road in the 92-93 season. And he also played in that famous 4-3 game at the end of that season where Oldham sort of stay up by the skin of their teeth when he's playing for Oldham Athletic in this season against Southampton. I'm not sure if he scores. And also, this is an interesting fact that I found out about him in my research that I didn't know. He's the only Premier League player in history still to score 5 goals in his first 5 games. So when he joined Ipswich from Oldham in 1993, he scored 5 in his first 5, and apparently that has never been matched in nearly 30 years. Yeah, so there we go. But just for scoring that goal, and I remember Brian Gunn comes out and absolutely clatters him as well. He just gets to the ball just ahead of Brian Gunn, just nods it over him, and then Gunny just comes out and cleans him out completely.
Yeah, that's good.
But just for looking a little different, having his own style, and also he was equally as comfortable at centre half. So I've got a little bit of versatility there. Yeah. So he can play up front and also at the back, which I believe he did for both Oldham and Ipswich with aplomb. So I'll go for Ian Marshall, who actually went on to play then after leaving Ipswich Town. He played for Leicester as well, and then Bolton after that. So he had quite a career in the Premier League. He played at the top level for about 12 years. Served 4 or 5 clubs very well. So Ian Marshall is my first striker.
And Marshall, one-on-one with the keeper. Is this the goal for him? Yes! Ian Marshall, it's at 2-2.
And who's to say he hasn't deserved it? And of all the chances we've seen in our 2 live games, I think this has probably been the most difficult of them all. But doesn't he take it very, very well? It's just a little hook on and Marshall's onto it in a flash. Good commits himself. He knows he's going to get clattered, Marshall, but that's a superb finish. Just what Oldham have needed, fractionally before half-time.
He really was. He was definitely onside.
Okay, so my number, I guess this is kind of a number 10, my attacking midfielder who's really a forward, but I think at the start of his career he did play attacking midfield, so it's allowed. It's now this is a bit cheeky because this is a bit of a legend. Is not maybe a little bit above the other names we've mentioned, and it's Brazilian forward Bebeto, who I've chosen because Stu's pissed off. I can tell either way he said that. So I've chosen him because I just think of him being the first example of that sort of exciting Brazilian flair player, like followed up in later years with players like Rivaldo and Ronaldinho and Neymar, I suppose. But this is, for our generation, I think it's kind of where it started, because you had other players like Romario in 94 and I guess 90, but he was more of just an out-and-out goal scorer. He wasn't so sort of known for his flair, but Bebeto, I think, was a lot of trickery and tricks. So that's why I've got him in the team. I think most famous for World Cup 94, and probably for one specific moment, which maybe do you know what's
of course, yeah. Is this against the Netherlands in the quarter-final?
Oh, I'm not sure who they were playing, but
I know they're wearing the blue away kit.
Yeah,
aren't they? The blue away strip, and of course, it's the Rock the Baby celebration.
Yeah, exactly. It's the birth of the baby celebration. Actually, I think you still see it used every now and again today, but there's also other variations on it, like putting a ball under your shirt and sucking your thumb, that sort of thing. But yeah, so Bebeto invented the baby rocking celebration. I found an interesting thing on Wikipedia that said that he didn't get on with Romario, which might be common knowledge to people, but to such an extent that Romario actually called a news conference before the World Cup in 94 to announce that he would not sit next to Bebeto on the team's flights to the US. He called a
press
news
conference
just to say that. How petty is that? But apparently they're friends now, but I like that. So yeah, in terms of club football, he played mainly. He never played in England, but he played at Deportivo La Coruña. That's where he was at his peak in between 92 and 96. But then he was one of those players that sort of the latter end of their career just went everywhere. So in the 6 years between 96 and 2002, he played for 11 teams, and played an average of 8 times for each club. And that period included the ignominy of being rejected by St. Mirren. Not that I have any problem with St. Mirren, but the idea of Bebeto being rejected by St. Mirren kind of shows you where his career had gone.
Well, yeah.
They were willing to pay his wages, but they had reservations about his fitness, which I think is a bit of a trend with Brazilian superstars. They do tend to sort of get to fitness towards the end, but he's in the squad because of that baby celebration, and also because, like I said, I think he's synonymous with Brazilian flair. And this is where it all began for people of our generation, I think. So
absolutely, great choice. Did he also, if I remember this correctly, back in the early days of the pod, we helped to solve a mystery on Twitter, and we were trying to find out who the player was on the front cover of FIFA 64, weren't we? And then or somebody was, and then we chimed in and put them right and told them that it was Bebeto himself.
FIFA. Oh right, I'm going to look that up now because I don't remember that, but. If we've helped anyone solve any issues or conundrums through this pod, then it's all been worth it. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it on.
And it's definitely him, isn't it?
Yeah, that's him, I think.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, what is your penultimate choice? Who is your penultimate choice, I should say?
Well, I've just told Carl Tyler that he's got to face Bebeto out there.
Ouch.
He's felt that ruptured hamstring twinge again. So let me ask you, Greenie, how many players can you think of who have started an FA Cup final, scored 11 goals in 36 games for their country, and also played for both Bishop Stortford and Buckingham Town?
I think Georgie Hadji did that, but apart from that, I can't think of anyone else.
Well, let me present to you the curious case of Christopher Wray.
Tell me more.
Okay, so Christopher Wray played for Arsenal in the late 90s and started the 1998 FA Cup final. So he started his career at Monaco and then had a breakout season on loan and I can never pronounce this team's name. I mean, if I was going to say it as it's written down to me, it'd be Gwyn Gamp, right? But it's probably Gorn Gamp or something like that, isn't it? I don't know. But I don't wish to make myself look like a piece of cheese. So he's had a breakout season, and then I think Arsene Wenger was at Monaco before, wasn't he? So I think maybe he knew Christopher Wray as a young player, and then signed him for £300,000 for Arsenal in the summer of '97. And he spent his 3 years at the team, mostly as fourth choice striker behind Ian Wright, Dennis Bergkamp, and Nicolas Anelka. And then went on to have a bit of a nomadic career. This is definitely the high watermark of his career. And it's funny you should mention this about Bebeto, because Christopher Wray managed what Bebeto couldn't and played 3 games for St Mirren.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. But he also, as I say, later on came back to England and played 1 game and scored 1 goal for Bishop Stortford. So I'm not sure what happened to for them not to keep him on after that return. I mean, he's a goal a game striker.
Yeah.
And also for Buckingham Town. With him being Liberian as well, and as I say, he scored 36. He scored 11 goals in 36 games for Liberia. I have to mention Ali Dia.
Yes,
and the case of Ali Dia and the sort of phantom footballer signing for Southampton, because he claimed that he was George Weah's cousin, I think, and George Weah is the other Liberian footballer I know of. So that's the train of thought there. But yeah, I almost picked Ali Dia, but then I thought it's a bit of a trope really, and it's been done. I think it's been done on other podcasts probably a lot better than I could do it. So I decided to pick Christopher Wray instead. And again, it's a career that I come back to occasionally and look at and think, what happened in the end? Because it's 3 goals in 28 appearances for Arsenal, and then in 1999 he scores 4 and 11 on loan at AEK Athens. He has a spell at Birmingham. He has a spell in Holland with Den Bosch. And then he just sort of goes on this nomadic couple of games here, couple of games there, and sort of disappears. But Christopher Wray was always a player who stood out for me, definitely in the late 90s, because of the Liberian thing. And it was always I used to say to my dad, I remember back in the 90s, that I reckoned I could, if he named me a country, I could tell him a football player that came from that country. So I remember I had Gus Poyet for Uruguay and stuff like that, So Christopher Wray was Liberia. But yeah, if we look at the 10 goals in 33 games at Gwyn Gamp, as I'm going to pronounce it now, then I don't think that's a bad return. So partnering the physical Ian Marshall up front is hopefully the more technical, slightly Christopher Wray.
Yeah. Very nice. I don't remember him at all, so I have very little to add. But he sounds like a good choice from what you say. So
I can only imagine that Arsenal had a bit of an injury crisis for that FA Cup final. If he's behind Wright, Bergkamp, and Anelka, and then gets to start in the cup final.
So yeah, my penultimate choice is very much influenced by my memories of the Merlin sticker annuals from 92 to 94. I think they were or maybe 93 to 95. The 2 that we had in our household anyway. And there was a player that I think maybe represents those stick arounds. I can't really tell you why, but represents those stick arounds for me. I think one year he was one of the glow in the dark ones or something. But he plays for official football league team of the pod. Well, he did for part of his career, and it's the Zimbabwean striker Peter Unlove, or to actually pronounce his name properly, I think it's actually Unlovu. Wikipedia told me that apparently English football fans pronounce his name wrong, so I want to do it justice. But yes, a legend of Coventry City in their Premier League days, with one of the most beautiful shirts ever to grace the Premier League, the Ribeiro sort of speckled sky blue Coventry home shirt. And so yeah, I've chosen him because that he represents that to me. I'm also always interested in a striker, or any player actually, who comes from an unusual country, kind of like what you were just saying. A country maybe where there isn't a footballing pedigree or heritage, and there's no other players from that country. So Zimbabwe, I thought, was a good example of that. Played from 1988 to 2011, most notably I think for Coventry, like I said, in 91 to 97. But he also played for Birmingham, Sheffield United and Huddersfield before going to end his career back in the Southern African leagues. And then he was later an assistant manager at Zimbabwe as well. And he was actually the first African player to ever play in the Premier League. So that's quite a claim to fame, I think, and something that makes him worthy of inclusion to my 11. So that's why I've got him in there, really. Just that sort of 90s sticker annual icon, and also because I wanted to get a bit more Coventry City in the team. So there he is, Peter Unlovu, up front, leading the line.
Excellent. They had a lovely away kit that season as well, that first Premier League season, which was the red and sort of white paint splodges. I don't really know how to better explain it than that.
The Peugeot sponsor.
Indeed. Not the only Zimbabwean Premier League player of that era. One of my favourite players of all time.
Not Bruce Grobbelaar. He wasn't.
Bruce Grobbelaar, absolutely.
Of course, yeah. Damn. I've blown it. I've embarrassed myself by that. But,
no, not at all.
Isn't Bruce Grobbelaar one of those players where he was born somewhere else, or I've definitely heard this mentioned on the John Robbins Spoon Underwater podcast.
It's something to do. He was like in the pub quiz, wasn't he? And because I think he was actually born in Durban in South Africa, I think.
Okay.
And then, but his nationality is Zimbabwean.
Okay.
I think John's quizmaster was saying that he was born in Zimbabwe when he wasn't. Okay. So yeah. But hey, listen, that's that's another podcast. Which I've probably misremembered. But no, a great choice. Another player with a sort of penchant for he never seemed to score a simple goal. I think from what I can remember. Again, I'm probably going back to the goals video again, which I think he appears more than a couple of times on. I think he always scored good goals as well. So yeah, no, what a great choice.
Good, thank you. Okay, it comes down to your final player. Who is it?
Okay, so I'm on number 11 now, and I'm on my left wing. And much like the England side throughout the 90s, I find myself with a bit of a left-sided problem. And the player that I've chosen in the left wing spot was actually one of the players tried out by England in order to try and fill that problem left-sided spot. And I've gone for Steve Guppy.
Ah, lovely.
So, again, it's another story which I like. He turned professional at the age of 23. And he'd been working on building sites while playing semi-professionally up until then. He's the only player who's ever played for the England under-21, England C, which is the semi-professional team, England B, and the full England national team. So he's the only player who's ever played for all four of those.
Yeah, that's such a cool fact.
And actually, he's a bit of a player of firsts, Steve Guppy, because later on in his career, he played for Stevenage Borough, and as a result, became the first player to play at both the old and new Wembley stadiums. because I think the game that he played in for Stevenage, I think it was an FA Trophy final. It must have been one of the first games at the new Wembley, and as such, he became the first player to play at both the old and new stadiums, and he was the first player to win medals at both the old and new Wembleys as well, which is a record that nobody will ever be able to take away from him, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Steve Guppy. He played a lot of his career at Wycombe Wanderers, which is when he was obviously playing as a semi-pro, and that forged a link with Martin O'Neill, who was his manager at Wycombe Wanderers, who then went back and signed him for Leicester City when he became Leicester City manager, and obviously had enjoyed his best years and was picked for England while he was playing on the left-hand side for Leicester City. And yeah, I couldn't think of a player I would trust more in the left wing position. So it's a bit of a one-cap wonder for England, but there's far more to him than that. And with those wicked crosses in from the left-hand side, it's Steve Guppy.
Lovely. Well, so what's the England C team? I've never heard of that. It's semi-professional.
Yeah, so England C is like the representative side. For non-league players.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I suppose it's up to and including the National League, or the conference as it used to be, and yeah, it's the national team, but for players at that level. So
does it still exist?
I believe, yeah. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now, yeah, and it's still going here. I've got a list of 2019 to 20 results here. Both games in 2019-20 cancelled due to the pandemic, but they did play a friendly against the Estonian under-23 side on the 5th of June 2019, and it looks like they lost that 2-0, unfortunately. So there we go. But I'm sure actually there would have been quite a few big names who have turned out for England C over the years. I'm just looking down at some of the goal scorers from years gone by. Omar Bogle, I think he's gone on to be a league player. James Norwood, I'm seeing here. Marlon Jackson, Andre Gray. Yeah, there's a few recognisable names here. So yeah, worth checking out. I think if they ever play near you, go and see the England C team.
I definitely would. Okay, so my final choice. He is the second player of this nationality to make it into my 11, and there's been a bit of a theme with great kits, and also celebrations have come up a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And this player, I think, is maybe most famous for a particularly iconic and very emotional goal celebration. And it's the Nigerian striker Rashidi Yekini, who scored Nigeria's first ever World Cup goal at USA 94, which led to this iconic celebration, which I remember seeing in real time when I was watching it on TV. Which is when he scores against Bulgaria. The cross comes in from the right, I think maybe from Daniel Amokachi. Mm-hmm. And at the back post, bursting in is Yekini, who taps it in and then celebrates in the back of the net. He sort of puts his arms through the net, and he's weeping and crying, and just like this burst of emotion, and he's just in the back of the net. For a good 5 or 10 seconds. The rest of the squad is sort of running all over the place celebrating, and it was a really iconic celebration, and obviously a massive moment for Nigeria, who that was their first ever World Cup, so that they went on to become quite a power in world football, and obviously we're at World Cup '98 as well. And the goal was scored wearing one of 90s football's greatest ever kits, which was the Nigeria away shirt of '94, which I think they recently sort of made an homage to.
I believe they did.
Yeah, I guess it was the last World Cup, or maybe the one before that, mm-hmm. With their away kit, which is a brilliant modern kit as well. But nothing can quite top this original '94 away shirt. He's still the top scorer for Nigeria. He helped them win the African Cup of Nations in 1994. And he also played at the Seoul Olympics in 1988. I'm not sure how many of the players in our combined 11s played in the Olympics, but he did. In terms of club football, he never played anywhere particularly recognisable, although he was most prolific at Vitória de Setúbal of Portugal, scoring 91 goals in 114 matches, which is a pretty good return.
Yeah.
He played in some other leagues in Europe, but he never quite surpassed those achievements in Portugal. Sadly, he died at only 48 after battling various physical and mental health issues. But I think his legend lives on thanks to that iconic moment at World Cup '94, and yeah, I'll never forget him for that. So I felt like I had to have him there, just in recognition of that. And yeah, gone but never forgotten, Rashidi Yekini.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There's a great on YouTube. Somebody's put up the BBC sort of retrospective program of World Cup '94, and it's hosted by Barry Davis and narrated by him as well. And that goal, obviously, I think it features in the opening titles actually, and it obviously is then featured later in the program. No, absolutely brilliant choice. Yeah, and yeah, Nigeria did go on to. They did a little better in '98, didn't they? I think we might have already covered this when we spoke about Taribo West, I think.
Yeah.
In the last episode, but yeah, fantastic. Sad to hear that he's no longer with us. But yeah, just for that moment alone, definitely deserves a slot leading your line, I think, for sure.
Il bouge beaucoup à Mokashi. Oh, superbe ouverture pour Georges. Attention au centre. Devant, il va. Oh, ça y est, superbe but nigérian sur ce déboulé extraordinaire de Georges. Rashidi Yekini, le buteur de Setúbal, le buteur de la sélection nigériane. Ouvre le score.
We did also choose managers to lead our cult 11s. Who did you go for?
Yeah, well, obviously the two of us are going to be sort of upstairs in a director of football role, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're going to be monitoring things and just keep a hand on the tiller, giving advice wherever necessary. I nearly went for Christian Gross. You see, the thing is, throughout I've gone for. That there are things that the players that I could have gone for like a joke, but really I've kept it sort of, I've kept it quite serious. I think with the choices I've made. So I didn't want to go for Christian Gross and his tube ticket and all that sort of thing, because there isn't too much Aston Villa in the side, apart from two players. Actually, there's quite a bit of Aston Villa in the side, but I have gone for Brian Little as the manager of my 90s side, just because he was a manager who was in his absolute pomp in the 90s, first of all with Leicester, and then obviously with Villa, coming on to win the League Cup with Villa in '96. He was still just Villa manager when I saw the team play that game back in '97, replaced by John Gregory not long after. He's a Villa legend. He spent all of his playing career at Villa, had it cut short by injury, unfortunately. And yeah, I think he's one of the managers that you would associate most with the 90s, just because he seemed to be at the top of his game in that period, and then unfortunately didn't go on to do too much afterwards. I think he might have managed Jersey for a little bit in recent years. Let me just check that. Let's see. I'm sure that's right. Yeah, in 2016 he managed Jersey. But yeah, no, I've just gone for So I've just gone for Brian Little as well. Not just for being at Villa, but probably just for being my favourite '90s manager. And I think he'll be a safe pair of hands to lead the team in.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good choice. Yeah, he sort of disappeared. I mean, I don't remember hearing about him after Aston Villa at all. But that's, I think, makes him perfect for this for this purpose, really.
Well, he did go on for a little while. I mean, I'm again just looking at his career here. So after Villa, he managed, and this is for a maximum of 2 seasons. He was in these jobs: Stoke, West Brom, Hull, Tranmere, Wrexham, Gainsborough Trinity, and then after a 4-year gap, he came back and managed Jersey for a brief period. But that doesn't seem to have lasted too long. So, yeah, there we go.
Wow, very good. Yeah, I think I've just settled on my choice based on what you've just said, because I really was toying up a few options. Like, I was considering Terry Venables, but I thought, well, he's not cult enough. He's like so famous for Euro '96. Then I was going to choose Joe Kinnear because he spent almost all of the '90s managing Wimbledon, who we agreed were the joint most 90s football club.
We did,
along with Coventry City, and also because he'd also managed the Indian and Nepalese national teams, which I thought was funny. But I'm going to have to just go for Mike Walker, because I wouldn't want anyone else leading this team, and I've got to have that Norwich connection. I think he, of course, managed Norwich in our in our glory days when Rule Fox and Darren Eady were there, so he'll have a good relationship with those two in my squad. So yeah, he was with Norwich in 92 to 94. Did come back again after going to Everton. Came back in 96 and 98 when we were in the Division 1 as it was then. And yeah, I just think he's a proper 90s manager. You know, he'd wear a tracksuit top with the collar underneath and the tracksuit bottoms. He'd have his sleeves rolled up, and his football boots on. He just looks 90s. And yeah, that's just who I want leading my players out onto the pitch. And I think he'll have a good relationship with the board and the players. So let's go, Mike.
Brilliant. Well, I think both of them are, both Mike Walker and Brian Little don't have any jobs on at the moment. So I think they would be free to take on take on these roles. So hopefully we can, if we can contact them through the podcast and see if they'd be up for managing these notional teams, that'd be fantastic. But then again, we haven't asked any of the players involved either, have we? So perhaps we should just leave it at that. Okay, so just to run down the teams in full again, then I'll go first. So in goal, I've got Raymond van der Houw. Back four of Des Little, Frank Yallop, Carl Tyler, and Arjan de Zoo. Then across the midfield, we've got Karol Poborski, Sasa Churchit, Billy Kenny, and Steve Guppy. And then up front is the pairing of Ian Marshall and Christopher Ray. So give us your 1 to 11 again, mate.
Okay, yeah. In goal, I've got Jose Luis Chilavert. Along the back, I've got Alessandro Costa-Curta, Sinisa Mihailovic, Taribo West, and Aldair. And then in midfield, I have Darren Eady on the left wing, John Moncur in the centre, Babetto in central attacking midfield, Rule Fox on the right wing, and then up front I've got Peter Nluvu and Rashidi Yakini.
Fantastic. I mean, it's going to be a great match when these two teams meet. I think there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot going on.
I'll say.
Churchich will be parading around the perimeter of the pitch with his protest placards. Mihailovic is going to be, cutting everybody off at the knees. Chilavert is going to be shooting from anywhere. I mean, it's going to be absolute madness. I'd certainly pay a £5 to see it. I don't know about
absolutely,
you.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that wraps up our Cult 11. I very much enjoyed thinking about and putting together. I'm sure you did as well, Stu. Yeah. Please do let us know actually what your thoughts are on our 11s and let us know who would make your 11s in any position, and of course you can contact us about any of our previous episodes using the usual channels, which I will read out now. You can find us on Twitter at allright90s. You can email us on allright90s@gmail.com, and you can find us on facebook.com/allright90s, and that's all letters, no numbers, allright90s. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, we're also on Instagram as well.
Yes, we are. Yep.
This is new since Christmas. I can't remember what our name is. I think it's allright90s pod, maybe. But
I think if I'm right in remembering, it's allright.90s.podcast.
Yeah.
But if you just search for us in the usual manner, and you'll find us. It wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly. Anywhere you want to get in contact with us, please do. We'd love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in our next episode, we are going to do the second part of our Games of the Decade series, as it were. We did the first half of the decade earlier last year, and now we want to do 95 to 99, I think. I think it's going to get a little bit more into our gaming heyday. So that should be a good one. So tune in next time for that one. And it's good to be back after Christmas and New Year, Stu. Looking forward to the rest of 2022.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to talking with you more, making more episodes, and let's keep the ball rolling, man.
We'll speak to you all in the near future. See you soon.
Okay, I'm off to grow a Fu Manchu without a moustache. Bye. I'll tell you what, mate, before we start, can I just get rid of this jacket? It's a little bit toasty here, sorry.
Oh, man, lucky you. It's so freezing in here. Sorry, I've got my hood up. It's because you're in the balmy south. You're a degree south of me, probably. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, what's that? Whoa, what's that? What's that you're wearing there?
This is.
I see. Ah.
This is the shirt
beautiful.
This is the shirt of the official
football
club of the pod. Once it went in the ledger, the guys at Classic Football Shirts were good enough to send me this because I ordered it and paid for it.
Guys.
But yeah, I couldn't resist it. This is Coventry City. This is the way we're going from now on.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this we're going to keep in, but
maybe this could be the post music.
Good idea.
End credits, like a Marvel film.